Very good morning, dear teacher friends.
Good morning,
Very
sir.
good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Very good morning, sir.
Am I audible?
Good morning, sir.
Am
Yes,
I
sir.
audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Audible, sir.
Oh, okay. Whether the slides are seen?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes,
Yes,
yes.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So at the outset, I would like to thank Dr. Nanjan Swami and the Director of Academic Staff College here for having given me an opportunity today to share a few aspects related to the biodiversity conservation. Worldwide, there is a hue and cry that we should protect biodiversity, we should conserve biodiversity. And everywhere, probably, you may be hearing at every point of time that biodiversity is very essential or very important, and so on and so forth. But very basically, I would like to tell you why this biodiversity is important and what is its significance, and do we need biodiversity? Without biodiversity, can we make a livelihood? So, as I learned from Dr. Nanjan Swami that it is a heterogeneous group, I don't go into the too much of technicalities or scientific terms. Instead, I will try my level best to present the concept of this biodiversity conservation to the best of my ability in as a simple manner as possible. In case you are having any doubts, any clarifications, you can of course interact with me at the fag end of my lecture. Well, let me begin with the concept of this biodiversity conservation. We know that in our environment or in our nature, plenty of resources has been given to us. What is nature? Nature, it is very difficult to define. So, very broadly, we can say nature can be defined as that area which is having, in a very broad sense, you would say, consists of all natural ecosystems, undisturbed ecosystems, right? Or even the natural landscapes and the areas that are unmodified by mankind during centuries of settlement, right? All these put together, we call it as nature. So, nature, very precisely, we can say, comprises of natural ecosystems or natural areas, areas unmodified by man or areas modified by man during centuries of settlement, and landscapes. All these put together, we call it as nature. Now, in this nature, we will come across plenty of resources. What are these resources? Air, water, soil, forest, wildlife, and minerals. So, these are the resources. So, these resources are given to us by nature. Why do you call them as a resource? Resource can be defined as a part of the environment. A resource can be defined as a part of the environment that come into the service of mankind. Now we are I'm using the word environment. Then what is environment? Environment is the immediate surrounding of a living individual or a living entity. Today, if you are at your home or room, that is your immediate surrounding. I am here in academic staff college, so this is my immediate surrounding. So the immediate surrounding of any living entity, we call it as environment. Now environment is a part of nature, and in this nature or environment we will come across all these resources. Now very broadly, these resources are categorized into indestructible and destructible natural resources. That means those natural resources which cannot be destructed by the interference of mankind or through his activities, they are referred to as indestructible natural resources. For example, air and water, they are considered as indestructible natural resources because they cannot be destructed by the interference of man or through his activities. They can be polluted. Pollution is different from destruction. So, thus, air and water are considered to be indestructible natural resources. Now, destructible natural resources are those resources which can be destructed by mankind through his activities. Say, for example, soil. The fertility of the soil can be lost by polluting the soil. The forests or the plants can be cut and deforestation activity can be made. So, it is a destructive activity. You can kill the animals in the wild. So, that is a destructive activity. And minerals, you can extract gold from its ore, or you can extract petrol or diesel from its natural sources. So, thus, all these resources which can be used, which come into the service of mankind, so they are going to be destructed. So, such resources, natural resources, are considered to be destructible natural resources. Among these destructible natural resources, even after destruction by mankind, certain resources can be renewed, can be replaced back into the nature. For example, if the fertility of the soil is lost, by judicious manuring, you can bring back the fertility of the soil. If the plants are cut by proper planting techniques or afforestation or reforestation program, you can bring back the plants once again, or you can replace back the plants in nature. If you can kill an animal through proper breeding program, you can once again replace an animal species. So thus, those natural resources which can be destructed but can be replaced back into the nature, they are said to be renewable resources. They are said to be renewable natural resources. But there are certain minerals like, there are certain resources like minerals which even after destruction cannot be replaced back into the nature. Suppose you burn petrol, it is a mineral resource, or a diesel, or you extract gold from its ore. Once you exploit these things, for example, when you burn petrol, petrol is converted into ash or some product, isn't it? Similarly, when you extract gold from its resource or ore, you will make jewelry. From the jewelry, you cannot once again replace back the gold ore. So, such resources, even after destruction, if they cannot be replaced back into the nature, they are said to be non renewable resources. So, thus, natural resources may be either indestructible or destructible. Among destructible, they may be renewable or non renewable. Among all these resources which I am displaying, if you look at air, water, soil, and right minerals, they are the non-living resources. Air, water, soil, and minerals are non-living resources, abiotic resources. Bios means life. So abiotic means absence of life. They do not have life. So they are referred to as abiotic resources or non-living resources, while forest and wildlife are considered to be the living resources. What is a forest? So, generally, an assemblage of plants or trees in a given area is referred to as forest. And the animals which are dwelling in the nature or in the natural forest, they are referred to as the wildlife. So it is in a very broad sense, in a very crude manner, we are using this terminology, forest and wildlife. Strictly speaking, forest and wildlife refers to one and the same. That is referred to as wildlife only. They are referred to as wildlife only. But for our convenience sake and conventionally, for the assemblage of plants, we use the term forest, and for the group of animals dwelling in the or inhabiting in the forest are referred to as wildlife, whatever it may be. But these living resources, living plants and animals, forest and wildlife, are considered to be the bioresources. They are said to be the bioresources because they do possess life. In Greek, the term bios in Greek refers to life or living. Now, these bioresources, if you look at whether the assemblage of plants or the animals, now whether they look similar to each other, though all human beings look similar to each other, do you think that they are exactly similar in all the aspects in their character, behavior, expression? No. So that means they do show variation. They do show variation. So all human beings are considered to belong to one species, that is Homo sapiens. Homo sapiens. Similarly, all mango trees belong to one species, that is Mangifera indica, scientifically or botanical name. Okay. Now, here what I am trying to say is that is a group of individuals inhabiting and capable of breeding among themselves in a given area. They are referred to as a species. Generally, they are referred to as species. Now, if you look at the individuals of a species here, whether it is a tiger species or a rosewood species or a human species, though they resemble each other, they are not the exact copy of each other. So, in other words, these living entities do show variation. We are living entities. Tiger is a living entity. Monkey is a living entity. So, we are having a close resemblance to monkey. It does not mean that monkey and human beings are one and the same. They are different species. Now, this variation that exists among the living entities, we call it as diversity. So, variation exists is called diversity. Because this variation is existing among the living entities, we call it as biodiversity. So, the term biodiversity refers to variety or variability manifesting among the living entities or existing among the living individuals. So that is what is the meaning of biodiversity. Now, the question is that do we need this biodiversity? Do we need this biodiversity? If so, what for we need biodiversity? Can anybody tell me? Can anybody interact and just tell me quickly?
For ecological balance, sir.
For ecological balance, fine.
Source of living, sir.
Huh?
For the life
Source of
sustenance.
living. It is our source of living.
Source of living. Okay. Okay, fine. So you may think over. See, there are varieties and varieties of plants and animals. So some may say, hey, why do we need a tiger? Why do we need a leopard? Why do we need, isn't it, a teakwood? Why do we need a sandalwood? Like so and so many doubts may be cropping up in the minds of many individuals, including microbes, including bacteria, viruses, even microorganisms are essential. Microorganisms, bacteria are also living entities. So every living entity or a living thing has got a definite role in our ecosystem. If I use the term ecosystem refers to a small unit of geographical area comprising of both living and non-living entities. A small unit of the geographical area consisting of both living and non-living entities, where living and non-living entities are interacting among themselves, and also they are interacting among themselves as well as interacting each other. So such an unit of a geographical area or the earth, we call it as ecosystem. We call it as ecosystem. River is an ecosystem, forest is an ecosystem, ocean is an ecosystem, evergreen forest is an ecosystem, desert is an ecosystem, pond is an ecosystem, lake is an ecosystem. See, look at the term ecosystem in simple words consists of any geographical area comprising of both living and non-living, biotic and abiotic components, which are interacting each other, right, for something, for production of something, for livelihood, for coexistence. So that is what is an ecosystem. So in this ecosystem, we have got the biodiversity. So river ecosystem is having certain composition of biodiversity, forest is having certain composition of biodiversity, desert is having certain composition of biodiversity. In other words, in a particular ecosystem, there is a defined composition of the biodiversity, well organized group of plants and animals which are interacting for their survival, growth, development, completion of life cycle. They are all being present. So that is how biodiversity is existing among all these things. So now, whenever they are present in an ecosystem, do you think that it forms a simple structure? Varieties of plants and animals, it will become a complex entity. And one cannot live without another one. For example, human beings, they cannot live without plants because plants are the one which are capable of synthesizing or manufacturing the food material during photosynthesis, the process, isn't it? So during photosynthesis, plants are the one which are capable of producing the food, and that food is essential for all living entities because food is the one which provides you energy. So if you want to be energetic, if you want to be lively, if you want to be active, you must consume food. And from where do you get this food? Food is coming from the plants which are manufacturing the food material. So you are dependent on plants. Plants also themselves, after manufacturing their food, utilize some of the food for their metabolic activities, for their growth and development, for their constructive and destructive processes in their body. So thus, in an ecosystem, all individuals, all living entities are interdependent upon each other for their growth, development, life cycle, or livelihood. Now, that is how in an ecosystem they form a very complex entity. Now, here goes the definition. So the variability among living entities or organisms from all sources, whether it is on land surface or terrestrial surface, marine surface or oceanic surface, or any aquatic ecosystem like river, pool, pond, lakes, etc. And whenever it is present in all these ecosystems, they form ecological complexes. They form ecological complexes. And when you look at these ecosystems, and whenever this, say for example, a river ecosystem is there, or a pond ecosystem is there, or a lake ecosystem is there, you take any ecosystem for that matter. Suppose you consider a lake ecosystem. In a lake, there may be fishes, there may be crocodile, there may be water snakes, there may be birds, there may be plants. See, look at the varieties of living entities are present in this lake. So, and among these, do you think that all the fishes present in a lake are similar? They do show variation. They do show diversity. So among the fish species itself present within a lake, they do show variation. That is diversity within species. Diversity within species. All of you are human beings, Homo sapiens. We all belong to one species, that is Homo sapiens. But yet we do show variation. We show diversity. So, why this diversity occurs among any species? That I will come to later. Now, that is what is the meaning. The diversity may be seen within the species, or it may be seen between the species. See, I and tiger differ, you and tiger differ, you and elephant tiger differ, elephant and a tiger differ. Likewise, different species do show variation. Even cat and tiger, they belong to the same family, but yet cat is different, tiger is different. So cat is a different species, tiger is a different species. So this variation, though externally they resemble almost similar, that is both cat and tiger, yet the variation that exists between two different species, we call it as species diversity, right? It will be showing variation. Ecosystem diversity is also there. Suppose you consider lake. Suppose now I am on the bank of Kukrali Lake. You may be elsewhere in another lake, or even in the same Mysore. There are Karanji Lake, right? There are different lakes even in Mysore. One lake ecosystem different is differing from another ecosystem. Though they are present in the same geographical area, the biotic components, biotic variation, biodiversity variation can be seen. So that is why biodiversity is not as simple as we think. So it is the variations or the varieties or variability that exists or manifests among the various ecosystems. Various ecosystem. They do show variation within the species. Why do they show diversity within the species? Why we differ from each other? Why we differ from each other? Can you tell quickly?
Because of the genetics, sir.
Yes, very good. So because of,
DNA, sir.
yes, the genetic makeup of one individual differs from another individual. Whatever the genes that are present in you may not be present in me. Whatever the genes that are present in me may not be present in another individual. Genes are present in every individual, no doubt. That is a DNA or chromosomes or genetic makeup, isn't it? So all these genes are responsible for the external appearance of an individual. You resemble your parents, father or mother or grandparents, anybody. So it's because you have been descended down through your what we can say hierarchical ancestors, isn't it? So thus the variation that exists among the living entities within a species. You are also a Homo sapiens, your friend is also a Homo sapiens, I am also a Homo sapiens. So this variation existing within the species is because of the genetic makeup of the individual, and that is called genetic diversity. Genetic diversity. Now, my genetic makeup is different from an animal genetic makeup. Say, for example, an elephant. So, we do show variation. So my genetic makeup varies from a monkey or a gorilla genetic makeup. So we do show variation. That is why monkey is a different species, gorilla is a different species. So this variation that exists between two different species, you call it as species diversity. You call it as species diversity. And ecosystem diversity. As I told you, that Kukrali Lake is different, Karanji Lake is different. So one point from here, one point from the neighboring area. So both them are ponds, but the variation will be there with respect to their both biotic and non-biotic component. So that variation that exists among the two different ecosystems, you call it as ecosystem diversity. So thus biodiversity is very broadly categorized into genetic diversity, species diversity, and ecosystem diversity. Genetic diversity because variation or diversity within the species, the variation or diversity between two different species is called species diversity, and the variation or diversity that exists between two different ecosystems is called ecosystem diversity. Now, can you give me an example? How many varieties of mango you will come across today? Mango season nowadays. How many varieties of mango may be present in the world? Can anybody tell me quickly?
Thousand.
Somewhere.
In thousand, sir.
How many? How much?
Many types are there.
No, tell me some number approximately. Let me see how much you can approximate.
400, sir.
Yes,
1,500.
1,000.
500.
More than 1,000.
Species of mangoes. Okay. How many varieties of rice you will come across? Rice.
40,000 something I heard.
Heard. Okay. So now I am showing you. Look at here. There are 5,000 recorded varieties of mango and 88,000 recorded varieties of rice. The scientific name of rice or paddy is Oryza sativa. Okay. So 5,000 recorded varieties of mango and 88,000 recorded varieties of rice or Oryza sativa is there. Mango is Mangifera indica, scientific name. Though they all belong to one species, yet you can see the variation. So this is because of the genetic makeup of the individuals within a species. So this diversity, you call it as genetic diversity. Similarly, look at this. Felis tigris is tiger, Felis domestica is cat. Okay, they belong to the same family, yet they are different species. They do show variation, though their external structure, everything appears to be same, but yet they are different species. This variation that exists among two different species, you call it as species diversity. Similarly, ecosystem diversity within a region. Look at here. For example, this is the grassland. In the valleys of mountains here in the same geographical area, you can see a forest. So you can see a forest here. This is the grassland. This is the forest. This forest is called Shola forest. Right? It is in the valleys. Okay. Now the plants and animals that are present in grasslands are different from the plants and animals that are present in the Shola forest. Though they are present in the same geographical area, same soil type, same climatic condition, in spite of all these things, grassland is one ecosystem, shoal forest is another ecosystem. So this variation that exists between two different ecosystems, we call it as ecosystem diversity. So thus, biodiversity may be genetic diversity or species diversity or ecosystem diversity. Now, just let me give you certain facts related to the biodiversity before knowing about the importance of biodiversity. I'm showing you. So our total land area of the earth is this much, and population as on today's morning around 8:45, 9 o'clock. I am displaying it here is almost 8.3 billion. And as on 2026, the world forest cover is said to be around 4.14 billion hectares. That is approximating about 32%. 32%. So, an ideal forest cover in any geographical area, an ideal forest cover in any geographical area is 33%. Remember, 33% is an ideal forest cover as prescribed by National Forest Policy. But world forest cover is 32%. It does not mean that every area of the world is having 32%. Some area may be having 70%, some may be having 90%, some may be having 2%, right? So this varies. As an average, if you total it, the world forest cover, it is coming to around 32%. But specifically, you should remember that in any geographical area, so an ideal forest cover must be 33%. And in India, the forest and tree cover is about 25.17% as against 33% as prescribed by National Forest Policy. Now, most of this forest, this, what we can say, the biodiversity, 40% of this global forests are being distributed in South America, Africa, and South Asia. And how much of species are there of biodiversity? No scientist could exactly give the exact figure of the number of biodiversity or species, number of species in biodiversity. They make an approximation. Almost about 5 to 100 million species are known to exist on this earth, of which only about 1.9 million species have been catalogued. Catalogued means identification and classification. Once you identify a species, you are going to what? Classify it, whether it belongs to fish group or amphibians group or frog group, or it belongs to snake groups or reptilia, whether it belongs to bird group, whether it belongs to mammals or like that. Similarly, plants also, whether it belongs to non-flowering plant group or flowering plant among non-flowering plant, whether it belongs to algal group, pachi, or in Kannada we call it as pachi, or fungi group, busto, right? So likewise, identification and classification of a species is called cataloging. In libraries, you know it, in different tracks. So economics books, botany books, physics books, mathematics books, economics books, they are all being shelved in different shelves, isn't it? That is called cataloging. Even author wise, year wise, subject wise, they classify it. So that is called cataloging. So identification and classification is called cataloging. So of the known almost 5 to 100 million species, only 1.9 million species have been cataloged so far, identified and classified. And still remaining species are yet to be identified. See, look at the enormous richness of biodiversity that this earth is having. Now, most of these species or biodiversity are being distributed in such regions of the world which we call it as hot spots. Hot spot is not a region which is very hot. You should not take the literal meaning of it. So, hot spot is a region where there is greater number of species, greater number of species. So, richness of the species. So, species richness must be there in the hotspot region, and worldwide as on today there are about 36 such recognized hotspots. And these hotspots we can see about 44.4% of plant species and 35.3% of vertebrate species. Vertebrate means animals having the backbone. You will come across animals having both backbone and the animals which are without backbone. Only if you consider the animals with backbone, they are called vertebrate species. Vertebrate species. So about 35.3% of vertebrate species and about 44.4% of the plant species are present in the hotspot regions. So that means hotspots are the regions which are very much rich in species. I will come to you about that hotspot later. Now, what is the fact that we can find related to biodiversity in India? Say, in India, Indian geographical area is 328.7 million hectares. That means we just occupy 2.47% of the world geographical area and has only 2% of the forest. If you say there is 100% forest cover, isn't it? Our contribution to the world forest cover is only 2%. And India has about 17.79% of the world human population. We are ranking number one. And also, we are having 32.6% of the cattle population. So, India is ranking number one both in human population as well as cattle population. And India has the largest cattle inventory in the world, followed by Brazil and China. Now, if you look at these statistics, you can understand that our geographical area is 328.7 million hectares. We are having just limited area, and our population is increasing, cattle population is increasing. Where do you need the space for livelihood or for living for yourselves and for the cattle? And where do you get the food resources for meeting the energy requirements of the cattle and the human beings? That is how I am telling you how much of pressure we are putting only between these two species, isn't it? That you can understand. So, anyhow, further aspects I will discuss in the coming class. Now, if you look at worldwide, India, as I told you, is ranking number one in cattle population, followed by Brazil and China. These three countries put together account for 64% of the world cattle population. And if you look at, as I'm saying here, India is having 25.17% of the forest cover. That means forest and tree cover put together, greenery, so to say. 21.76% is the actual forest cover, and other than the forest, wherever in other areas you are planting, isn't it? You are planting or growing the plants, that accounts to about 3.41%. So put together, the greenery in India, forest and tree cover in India is 25.17%. It is not 33%. As on today, we are having 25.17%. Still, we are having shortage of, you can minus 33 minus 25.17. So that will be the deficiency of the forest that we are having. And if you say 100% is the biodiversity in the world, so India is contributing about 8% to the world biodiversity. And about 0.52 hectares of forest is there for every person on this planet. So 93% of the world forest area is composed of naturally regenerating forest. 93%. Natural way of they themselves replicate or multiply or rejuvenate. So that is regenerating forest. Only 7% is planted. Only 7% is the planted forest that we come across. Now, 44% of the plantation forests are composed mainly of introduced species. That is, the species which are not native to that area. They have been brought from elsewhere and they have been introduced, especially in the plantations. So that is about 44%. So why I am telling all these statistics? At the fag end of the lecture, we will be in a position to assess why biodiversity is important, how much we are losing, what is its significance. And in India, we are having about 47,513 plus species of wild plants and 92,037 plus species of wild animals. Here I am using the word wild plants and wild animals. What do you mean by wild? Can anybody quickly tell me what is meant by wild?
Which cannot be
domesticated.
and yeah.
Very good. So the species which is neither domesticated nor cultivated, right? Very naturally. That is, any species which is born and brought up in a particular geographical area, over a period of time through the process of evolution. So any species which has been born and brought up right, over a period of time through the process of evolution is called a wild species. Now, in India, we have got about 47,513 plus. Why I'm telling plus? Because here nobody can give an exact figure of the plants and animals that has been recorded in India. Because by the time we are discussing, one species might have been extinct, right? Or new species might have been evolved, so that nobody can give an exact figure. So approximately, as on today, about 47,513 plus species of wild plants and 92,037 plus species of wild animals are being reported in India. Even about 320 species of wild relatives of the crop plants have been originated in India. For example, today, whatever the ragi that we are eating today, ragi, scientifically or botanically, we call it as Eleusine coracana. If you ask their original parents, right, about this ragi, one is Eleusine africana, another is Eleusine indica. Africana is in African country, Indica is in Asian continent. Somehow, during the geography, I mean, all the landmass was together earlier. We know that Earth, isn't it? So, during the continental drift, different land masses have been separated, during which this Africana species and Indica species of the ragi plant have been separated. But by the time, because there is the pollen grain from one plant has been transferred to another plant, that is male gametes and female gametes, somehow they have, right, fertilized, and the seeds were fallen on the Indian land mass, and it started growing as a ragi plant. Ancestral man found it to be very palatable, very nutritious. He started throwing the seeds, eating something, tassel, tene, ತಿಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಆ ಕಡೆ ಈ ಕಡೆ ಬಿಸಾಕ್ತಿದ್ದ. So that's how the seeds got spread, seeds got dispersed, and they started growing. And today, with the advent of the modern scientific methods of plant breeding, other things, varieties of ragi has been cultivated. But originally, the parents of the ragi plant are the wild species. So, likewise, about 320 such species of wild relatives of crops have been originated in India. And in India, about 1,39,550 species of plants and animals, including microbes, are recorded. Still more than 4 lakh species are yet to be identified. So there is lot of scope for investigation or for research in India to know about biodiversity, their importance and significance. Now, based on this, now if you can look at even the state of Karnataka, which is the 8th largest state in the country, right, is having about 20.47 plus of the forest cover, right, 20.47% of the forest cover, right, and in addition to that, tree cover is about 4.05. So totally, forest and tree cover accounts for 24.52%. So we are having very less percentage of the forest cover. Of course, we are having about 10,000 square kilometer of coastal area where mangrove forests are there, and mango in Karnataka is about around 14.20 square kilometer. It is being stretching, and India is, I mean, Karnataka is also rich in biodiversity because it is the home of both sandalwood and rosewood. In the world, entire world, the best stock of the genetically superior population of sandalwood and rosewood is present in Karnataka. And Karnataka supports about 25% of India's elephant population and 10% of India's tiger population. And here, more than 4,758 flowering plants, floral species are present with 95 endemics. Now I am using the word here, endemic. What is endemic? That is a species which is born and brought up in a particular locality or a particular geographical area is said to be endemic to that area. In other words, native place of a species. Native place of a species is called endemic species. Suppose you are born in Mysore and settled in Bangalore. Even though you are settled in Bangalore, because you are born in Mysore, so it is becoming your native. So you are endemic to Mysore, but you are not endemic to Bangalore. You are exotic to Bangalore, but you are endemic to Mysore. So the place where a species has been originated, that is the place where a particular species has been taken its birth. In other words, the native species. So such species which have been originated in a particular geographical area, they are said to be endemic species. So in Karnataka, 95 native species are being present. 95 endemic species are being present. So, and if you look at the Western Ghats, it is one of the hotspot regions in the world. Now, Western Ghats starts from the mouth of river Tapti in Gujarat, extends up to Kanyakumari. Of this stretch, 60% of the Western Ghats are located in Karnataka. So that means Karnataka is also rich in biodiversity, having abundant varieties of plants and animals. Now, all these species, when we identify and classify, we know that already over a period of time, some species have become totally disappeared from the globe or from the locality. So, such species are said to be extinct species. Such species are said to be extinct species. That means a species which is not at all seen in the wild or sighted since last 50 years in any geographical area, they are referred to as the extinct species. So all such type of what we can say status of the species is going to be carried out. The work is going to be carried out or taken up by a body, an international organization, what we refer as IUCN. IUCN means International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. International Union for Conservation of Nature and Natural Resources. So, actually, it was earlier known as what we can say WCO, World Conservation Union, right? So now, before that, it was also known as IUPN, International Union for Protection of Nature. However, today, still this term is being in usage, IUCN. So later on, even recently, they are using once again WCO, World Conservation Union. Whatever it may be, it is this international, sorry, this international organization which has taken up the responsibility of assessing about different species across the globe. It has got economists, scientists, computers, systems analysts, right? So all, even NGOs, non-NGOs, individuals, so many group of right individuals across various countries have been organized under to given the task of what we can say looking into the details of these species in every locality, and that's how they are going to pull in the data information and give this. So if a species, no, that is what is very briefly, just I told you what how IUCN functions. Now, here with respect to biodiversity, if a species is not sighted since last 50 years in that particular area, it is referred to as extinct species. Sometimes you will see certain species, they are very less in population, very less in number. So but in they are going to become extinct if the causal factors, what are the causal factors? It may be habitat destruction, it may be pollution, it may be encroachment of the habitat, anything. So it any such factors, if at all is going to exist, they may what make a species to likely to move into the extinct category. So the species which are on the brink of extinction, the species which are about to disappear from the globe shortly, they are referred to as endangered species. Tiger is an endangered species. Lion is an endangered species. King cobra is an endangered species. So likewise, the population is well below very critical number. So they are referred to as endangered. What is vulnerable? That means they are the group of species which is slightly better than endangered species. Say if population of tiger is 50, the population of say bear or some other one may be around 100 or 200. So they are not yet endangered, but likely to move into endangered category in case if the over exploitation or habitat destruction continue to take place. So such species which are not yet endangered but likely to move into endangered category, they are referred to as vulnerable species. Similarly, rare species. Rare species means their population is relatively better than vulnerable species, larger, slightly larger. So that means rare species, for example, black buck, they are in packets. In, for example, in Karnataka, Rani Bennur, it is there, black buck sanctuary. In Rajasthan, it is there. So they are in packets being distributed with sufficient number. So, but if the pollution or habitat destruction or encroachment or killing if takes place, they are also likely to move into vulnerable category. But at present, they are not yet vulnerable. So, thus, based on the population size, right, and their availability in a particular geographical area, various categories like endangered, vulnerable, rare, extinct, all these things are going to be categorized by IUCN. That is why they are called IUCN categories. But there are certain plant. Say, for example, there is one plant in Baba Budan Hills of Chikmagalur district in Karnataka. There is only one plant, but nobody can classify it. We do not know what is the importance of that plant and how it can be multiplied, what is the significance of that plant. Nothing we can see. No information is being studied because if you want to study, you have to cut the plant. So if you cut the plant, it will become extinct. So no sufficient information is available on certain species. So they are referred to as indeterminate species. They are referred to as indeterminate species. All these information put together, so to say, is going to be given or published in a book called Red Data Book. All this information is available in a book called Red Data Book, which is published by IUCN. And the concept of this Red Data Book was first given by a scientist called Sir Peter Scott. Sir Peter Scott, SCOTT, right? He is the man who gave it, okay, in the year 1960. And in the year 1962, compilation of the information started, and the first Red Data Book was published in the year 1964. In the year 1964, so it has been first published. Now, why they named it as Red Data Book? Why the book has been named as Red Data Book? Because in this Red Data Book, whatever the information that is available or the plant species or animal species that have been listed, they are all either endangered or vulnerable or rare or indeterminate. So you are not supposed to use these species. You are not supposed to threaten these species. So stop killing, stop threatening, stop exploiting these species. That is why the term red is being given. So when you are moving in a vehicle, if red signal comes, what will you do? You will stop. So stop to signify the stoppage of the over exploitation or killing of these plants and animals. The book has been named as Red Data Book. That is what it is called. I mean, it has been named as such. Now, endemism. I told you the native species, native plant, that is the native place of a particular species is called endemic species. King cobra, for example, Indian rosewood, slender loris. Slender loris, probably in Kannada you call it as Kadu Papa. So all these are endemic to the Western Ghat region of Karnataka. So such species are referred to as, which are native to a particular geographical area, they are referred to as right endemic species. Now you will understand why I gave the term endemism or endemic species. How do you identify in any geographical area that this area is a hotspot region? Species richness. I told you there must be species richness. How much of species must be there in a given area? There must be a minimum of 1,500 endemic species must be there. 1,500 endemic species must be there to call that area as hotspot. And when you say there are greater number of such endemic species, automatically the degree of threat is also very high, because naturally people will use or exploit these species. Varieties of species are being available, it is being continuously exploited for various purposes. So thus, based on the degree of endemism and the degree of threat, the hotspot region is going to be determined. Worldwide, there are 36 such hotspots, and in India, there are 4 such hotspots: Western Ghats, Eastern Himalayas, Indo-Burma region, of course, now it is called Indo-Myanmar region, and Sundaland, part of Indonesia, part of Malaysia, part of Nicobar Islands. All these put together, we call it as Sundaland, because you cannot demarcate the boundary of a forest from one country to another country. It is a forest stretch. Put together, we call it as Sundaland here. So these 4 hotspots are there in India, which are rich in the endemic species. So to identify any region in the world as a hotspot, a minimum of 1,500 endemic species must be there, and the degree of threat must be high. And that is how a hotspot region is going to be determined. Now, once you know about what is a hotspot, what is an endemic species, how much of biodiversity is existing globally or nationally or even locally or state-wise, by knowing all these things, the question arises, why we need biodiversity? So we know that worldwide 40% of the world population, 40% of the world population depends upon the biodiversity for food. Food energy is essential. So 40% of the world population is directly dependent upon the biodiversity, and 80% of the world population, 80% of the world population is dependent upon medicine for that is dependent upon biodiversity for medicine. So various types of medicines to cure their diseases or disorders or health hazards, so they are dependent upon biodiversity. So in addition to that, we know that biodiversity provides you what not it will not produce. It will provide you food, medicine, fodder, timber. Every part of the biodiversity is coming into the service of mankind. So it provides you food, fodder, fruit, fuel, timber, medicine, whatnot, everything. Now, based on this utility, biodiversity, once again, it is going to be classified or categorized. Say, for example, you are going to use a plant or an animal for the extraction of oil or fertilizers. Say, you will use neem oil. Neem oil you are going to extract from neem plant and you commercially sell it, isn't it? You sell in the market. Similarly, you will take manure, fertilizers you are going to produce from the debris or by composting of various plant debris, etc., and you are going to sell in the market. So any such product that is obtained from the biodiversity and sold in the market for gaining the money, right? So that is called the commercial value of biodiversity. So based on its utility, so biodiversity is once again very broadly categorized into commercial value of biodiversity. That is, the values have been assigned for biodiversity. For example, shark fish is going to be extracted for extraction of iron contents and manufacture of a tonic called charcoferol or ferrodol, wherein the patients who are the individuals who are anemic, deficiency of iron. So if they are anemic, so the doctors will advocate such type of tonics which are going to be extracted from the fishes. So that value you call it as the commercial value of biodiversity. Then biological value of biodiversity. See, in terms of pollination, soil formation, and nutrient enrichment, they are referred to as biological value. Now, if you know that the world is dependent upon the pollinating agents for fruits, for example, mango. Look at this mango. Who is going to take the male gametes from a male flower of a mango plant and transfer it to the female flower of a mango plant and ultimately to affect fertilization and produce fruits and seeds? So it is not human beings. Even as a plant breeder, as an expert in plant breeder, if you want to start doing this pollination mechanism right from today, hardly in your lifetime you may produce 100 fruits, 1000 fruits. That's all. Right? How much of fruits you require for meeting the need of the entire world population. So here comes, butterflies are the number one pollinating agents, followed by honeybees. So butterflies and honeybees, they are very naturally present in our nature. They serve as the best pollinating agents, so that today most of the food fruits that we are getting is because of these agents. See, look at varieties of honeybees, varieties of butterflies. So they affect pollination, fertilization, help in fruit formation and seeds set. That is the biological value. And when plant debris, plant die or the animals die, they all add to the soil. They undergo decomposition. The soil microorganism decompose them and add to the soil. And when they decompose, the nutrients locked up in all these dead bodies of plants and animals, they are released back into the soil. Thereby, there will be a nutrient enrichment. A natural manuring takes place. See, that is what is the importance of the biological value of biodiversity. Recreational value, it cannot be measured in terms of money. See, if you look at the beauty of a butterfly or an animal or the photos that I am showing, so you derive a lot of pleasure. It cannot be equated in terms of money or measured in terms of money. So that value of the biodiversity, you call it as recreational value. Sometimes, some individuals get mentally disturbed, maybe various because of health problems or because of certain disappointments in their life, etc. So at the time, if you meet a doctor, do you know what they suggest? They come to know, yes, this individual requires certain refreshment, recreation. They suggest go to a hill station, spend some time, look at the beauty of nature, look at the beauty of forest, wildlife. So when you look at all this beauty of the biodiversity, the hood of, that is when the cobra is going to unfurl its hood, right? So it will be so beautiful to watch. The peacock dancing is so beautiful to watch. But can you measure it in terms of money about the pleasure that you are going to derive? That is what is called the recreational value. After looking at the biodiversity, you are going to be inspired by looking at the beauty of biodiversity, and you will write something. You may paint something, you may write some art, you may write some experiences related about the beauty of nature. See, in Kannada, so to say, you will write poems. Balliyante ಬಡುಕೊಳ್ಳುವಳೆ, isn't it? ಹಂಸದಂತೆ ನಡೆಯುವಳೆ. So these are all the aesthetic value, the value that you are going to get from biodiversity, which is going to inspire. That is, the inspiration that you are going to get from biodiversity is referred to as the aesthetic value. Kuvempu has become a world poet or something else because he was inspired. We are inspired by the beauty of nature and biodiversity in Kuppalli, and you could write so much of literature on what? The nature and biodiversity. Similarly, Wordsworth has become a nature's poet because he was inspired by the beauty of biodiversity. So that value of biodiversity, you call it as aesthetic value. Scientific value. What is the scientific value? Gene pool, evolution, human welfare. Yes, biodiversity is giving you ample scope for production of new varieties of crops, new varieties of animals, and varieties according to your liking, isn't it? So it is coming into your service. And gene pool above all. See, look at, all of us want have a specific choice in our life for a partner. Suppose you are very young, and if you want to select your partner, you have got certain parameters. According to that parameter, you want to search, and the search will come only when there is a greater gene pool. greater varieties of individuals are being available. So thus the scientific value of what biodiversity is the provision of the gene pool, which leads to evolution, human welfare. All these things are referred to as the scientific value of biodiversity. A tree that lives for about 50 years, do you know how much it is useful? A 50 some an ecologist and economist, they made study for about more than 2 decades, over randomly by various sampling, and they could arrive at, as an average, they could arrive at certain results. According to that, a tree that lives for 50 years is capable of generating 5.3 lakhs worth of oxygen. So if you want to know the value of oxygen during Corona, you ask an individual how much they have paid for getting an oxygen cylinder. Hmm? So a single tree that lives for about 50 years is capable of providing 5.3 lakhs worth of oxygen. And it can facilitate about 6.4 lakhs worth of soil erosion control, because we know that trees, when they are grown through their root system, they are going to bind the soil together, so that when they bind the soil together, soil erosion is not going to take place. It is going to minimize the erosion of the soil. So if the trees are cut, the topsoil is exposed, so soil erosion either by wind or water may take place. A single tree that lives for 50 years, in its 50 years time, it is going to bind the soil particles and prevent soil erosion to an extent of 6.4 lakhs. And a tree that lives for about 50 years is capable of controlling air pollution, which is worth 10.5 lakhs. So you throw a lot of noxious chemicals into the environment by smoking, automobile exhaust, industries, right? Dust and so many things. By so much of our anthropogenic activities, you are going to polluting the atmosphere. And even in this polluted atmosphere, if a tree is there, a single tree in 50 years is going to control. It is going to observe all these particulate matter of dangerous chemicals, etc., and still it gives you oxygen, isn't it? It gives you oxygen. So thus a tree that lives for 50 years, it controls about 10.5 lakhs worth of air pollution, right? So air pollution control. Then a tree that lives for 50 years is capable of what? Providing shelter for birds and animals worth about 5.3 lakhs. And a tree that lives for 50 years is capable of recycling about 6.4 lakhs worth of fertility. That is through debris, branches, when they die, right? All this will go into decomposition and enriching the fertility of the soil, which is about 6.4 lakhs in 50 years. In addition to this, a tree is also going to provide you flower, fruit, timber, whatnot. So, thus, when a tree is fell or cut, it is worth more than 33.9 lakhs. When a tree is cut, which is worth 33.9 lakhs. See, look at this. By a single tree, you get so much of benefit, so much of benefit. Plants and animals, including human beings, will get it. So, then you think of what we should do for a tree. Huh? How many trees are there in India? So, estimation has been done. India has a tree population of only 35 billion trees, leading to just 28 trees per person. So, for our population, we are having just only 28 trees per person. But if you compare the same with respect to Brazil, in Brazil, each person is having about 1,494 trees per person. And in Canada, a person will be having about 8,953 trees per person. And in China, they are having 102 trees per person. It is we in India, right, having only a very less number of trees per person. That means these statistical figures signify that how much of deforestation activity has been going on in India as compared to other countries. So, friends, let me have a break here, right? So my friend Dr. Ranjan Swami is telling me it is a tea break. Okay.
11:40 can.
At 11:40 we shall once again reassemble. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Dear
Thank you,
participants,
sir.
Thank you, sir.
please join the link again at
Thank
11:40.
you, sir.
Sure, sir.
Recording stop. ಇದು ಹಂಗೆ ಇರಿ.